Hello and welcome to News Central Now. I'm Darshan Usman. The headlines. Tanker explosion in Rivers State kills 5 persons, burns 120 vehicles. Opposition wraps up campaign ahead of legislative polls in Togo. Sudan demands emergency UN meeting over the UAE's involvement in its lingering conflict. Details of these stories and more shortly. We begin the news by telling you that Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara has lamented that there is a fierce fight over the soul of the state to destroy it, but noted that only the well-meaning persons who are standing firmly with him can wield the force of unity to save it. Fubara made the remark at the country home of a former governor of the state, Celestine Omehia, in Ubima Community, Ikwere local government area of Rivers State on Saturday. The governor, accompanied by some elders of the state, visited Ubima to condole Omehia, who recently laid his mother, Mrs. Ezinne Omehia, to rest. Present at the event were former national chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Uche Secondus, a former governor of the state, Peter Odili, and Senator Lee Meba, among others. A massive ferry carnage on the east-west road in Rivers State has destroyed more than dozens of vehicles, scorched goods worth estimated billions, and claimed at least 5 lives. Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara, who visited the scene of the devastating tragedy on Saturday, confirmed 5 deaths and 120 burnt vehicles. The devastating incident happened on Friday night along the Eleme axis of the road, which has long been neglected, increasing motorists' risks. Now, reports suggest that the tragedy was triggered by when a tanker navigating the dilapidated road was hit by another heavy-duty vehicle, igniting flames and an explosion. Staying in security, porous borders, cattle rustling, night grazing and destruction of farmlands have been listed among the major pointers of the recurring crisis in Plateau State. Now, this was noted by the governor of Plateau State, Caleb Mutfwang, during the just concluded stakeholders meeting in Plateau State, north-central Nigeria. News Central's Chizoba Nyongwe tells us more.
This is certainly not the first time stakeholders from Bokos and Mango Council areas are gathered for this kind of meeting. However, it is the first time Operation Safe Haven is pulling together this number of people to brainstorm and chart a way forward for lasting peace on the plateau. Dissatisfied with the killings in the state, Commander of Operation Safe Haven says professionalism will remain his watchword for an end to these hostilities.
As I speak, we have a general court martial going on to try cases of erring personnel. Discipline and professionalism remains our watchword with the highest level of impartiality and neutrality.
Not ignorant of remote causes of this crisis, stakeholders believe that if they walk the talk efficiently, the seemingly eluding peace on the plateau will be restored.
What is bothering people is people are chasing us and are telling us we are not an entity. Since so many years we are living here, even in the presence of the securities. So we need to follow the constitution.
Why Mango? Why Bokos? Why Barkelad? If you look at the bulk of mess and the bulk of Potata, it's coming from these 3 local government areas. Can you see the handwriting come from somewhere? Maybe to weaken the economic activities of Plateau State?
It's not enough to just gather together and talk. Action, resolutions should be taken so that this ugly situation will be addressed.
Notwithstanding, the governor is optimistic that his administration will not relent in working towards ending these attacks in the state.
We have a loss of Operation Rainbow, and by the grace of God, very soon, Operation Rainbow and peace-building agents will engage community leaders, will engage our hamlets,
Several engagements have been held in the past, ideas have been exchanged, and promises made. Yet, the peace the state was known for has remained elusive. And so, coming days will be crucial in measuring the real impact of this meeting. In Jos for New Central, Chizoba Anyuwe.
The Nigeria Correctional Service has been tasked to urgently remodel, decongest and deploy monitoring devices at correctional facilities nationwide, including ensuring the conclusion of cases involving awaiting trial inmates in custodial centers across the country. Now, this has become apt in light of the recent jailbreak at the Suleja Correctional Service located in neighboring Niger State. Marvelous Obomanu tells us more.
Over the years, concerns have grown regarding the overcrowding of Nigeria's correctional centers.
You talk about correctional center, and we can talk about the population in correctional centers. Yeah, the over 240 something. We know the total number, but the correctional service is not the only agency that have custodial rights and keep people in custody. We have about 19 of such institutions that people can be detained, but yet we do not know. Nobody knows, and I keep saying it. Nobody have that population of the total number of persons in Nigeria that are in detention facility. Nobody knows.
This was a facility that was built to house 250, and obviously because of before the incident that happened, we had 499. This goes to what we keep talking about overcrowding in our correctional centers.
Despite the Correctional Service Act of 2019, which provides the way and manner custodial centers ought to be run, the number of awaiting trial inmates has continued to challenge the available infrastructure in the facility.
Obviously, we can see the walls are actually old.
It was the rain that put down a wall. So you cannot say it's the fault of the corrections. The corrections are using what has been given to them. So we are calling on the government to prioritize these issues, because if that continues and the pretrial detention issues keep escalating, we'll keep on radicalizing more Nigerians.
Although government has promised to ensure the return of fleeing inmates, many have expressed worry over the effective management of custodial centers sited close to urban cities.
This is a clear testimony. You can look at the environment. It shows that we need to relocate a lot of our correctional centers.
The Prisoners Rehabilitation and Welfare Action Prawa at this briefing in Abuja has expressed worry over the inability to effectively implement the Nigeria Correctional Service Act of 2019, which has taken care of challenges confronting custodial centers in Nigeria.
If we had this implemented and people were actually visiting the custodial centers every month, I doubt that we would, and not just visiting them as a box-ticking exercise, but visiting them to implement everything that the Act has said they should. I doubt that we would get to the point where we are at.
This could have been avoided if the right information, at the appropriate time, had been disseminated with regards to the structure.
Data from the Correctional Service says that out of 78,621 inmates in the country, 54,177 are awaiting trial inmates. In Abuja for News Central, Marvelous Oboma.
Now away from that, resident doctors of the Delta State University Teaching Hospital, Ogara, South Nigeria, have withdrawn their services for 1 week. Now, this serves as a warning over what they termed government's insensitivity to the issues affecting the provision of optimal patient care and training of resident doctors in the state. News Central correspondent Austin Azu completes the report.
This might not be the best of time for patients of this health facility, the Delta State University Teaching Hospital, located in Ogara. But it seems the resident doctors of the hospital have ignored their plights, prioritizing their own demands. Leadership of the resident doctors are here in Asaba Delta State capital to brief the press about the challenges. Top on the list is the state of infrastructure at the teaching hospital and poor funding.
Is it because they don't use the hospital? Is that why they don't seem to care? So resident doctors are saying, come back to the hospital. Look at the hospital. It is the highest referral center in Delta State. The dilapidated state of the hospital should be looked back into and renovated. You see that it was recently renovated, but you see the fittings are pulling off, the ACs are not working, such that when you go to your consulting room, it becomes hell for you to work. Equipments are now old, outdated, and non-functional. The hospital had CT scan, 64 slide CT scan, had MRI 1.5 Tesla, MRI, had mammography machine, had endoscopy machine, echocardiography machine, electroencephalograph machine. We had all the machines, but now they are all worn out and non-functional.
The doctors are looking forward to an audience with the governor as a step towards resolving these challenges for better service delivery in the states. In Asaba, Delta State for News Central.
Now joining me on the news to discuss this is President, Association of Resident Doctors, University of Delta State Teaching Hospital, Ogara, Dr. Harrison Uja. Hello, doctor. Thank you so much for joining me at this time.
Hello, Miss. I am happy to be with you.
All right, doctor. Now, let's start by you taking us through the circumstances that actually pushed doctors in Delta State to take a stand on a one-week warning strike.
Okay, thank you so much. The fact is that there's no gainsaying that health is wealth. And if anybody is going to be president of this country, first of all, you must be healthy. If you want to be a governor of the country, of the state, you must be healthy. Senator, House of Assembly, and all the rest, you must be healthy. The fact is that sometimes, because of the fact that most of our politicians do not use our institutions, they seemingly don't care. Or perhaps sometimes the people that are meant to carry this information to them always tell them that things are okay at the hospitals or at the university, at the schools, and all of that. So you will see them acting as though everything is going on well with the state, but it's not. So one of the reasons we came to this point is that from December last year, we have written communiques upon communiques and issue lots of ultimatum, some of which we even overlook as an association. But when we came to a point about 6 months of this, about 4 months now, or 5 months, 5 months now into this our tenure, we have found out that it's as though we are just talking and nobody's listening. We have written lots of letters and we ask ourselves, do these letters get to the governor? We seem to believe that it doesn't get to the governor. And so we have to issue a warning strike following the fact that we have given an ultimatum, gave an extension of 3 weeks for the ultimatum, where only one of them went. People are just retrieving them about 70 points that we asked for. And that was why this industrial action was declared.
All right, now, Doctor, you did say you've written to the government several times, but you're not sure if it has gotten to them. But how did the government's lack of action affect patients who need quality care? And quite ironically, how is the strike affecting these patients who need urgent medical attention as well? All right, thank you so much, Dr. Uja. We appreciate you for your time. All right, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, News Central Now returns. Stay with us. Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. Now, former Nigeria's Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Michael Aundoka, has denied involvement in the compensation deal between pharmaceutical giant Pfizer and Kano State government over the 1996 trials which the drug Trovan during a meningitis epidemic in Kano. Now, Pfizer had reached a $75 million settlement with the Kano State government under the late President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua's administration following the death of 11 children and deformities in dozens of others. More in this report.
Drug maker Pfizer hired investigators to find evidence of corruption against Nigeria's Attorney General to convince him to drop legal action against the company over a drug trial involving children, according to multiple sources. Kano State sued the world's largest drug maker in May 2007 for $2 billion over testing of the meningitis drug Trovan. State authorities said the test killed 11 children and left dozens disabled. The drug company denied the charges in a statement, calling the allegations simply preposterous. According to multiple online sources, a memo leaked by WikiLeaks referenced a meeting between Pfizer's country manager Enrico Legari and U.S. officials, suggesting the drug company did not want to pay to settle two cases brought by Nigeria's federal government. In 1998, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration approved Trovan for use by adults only. After reports of liver failure, its use in the United States was restricted to adults' emergency care. The European Union banned its use in 1999. Legari commented that the lawsuits were wholly political in nature because the NGO Doctors Without Borders administered Trovan to other children during the 1996 meningitis epidemic, and the Nigerian government had taken no action. He underscored that the suit has had a chilling effect on international pharmaceutical companies because companies are no longer willing to conduct clinical testing in Nigeria. Legari opined that when another outbreak occurs, no company will come to Nigeria's aid. However, the former Attorney General has come out to deny his involvement in the compensation deal, stating that there was no need for interference by the federal government since the Kano state government had already set up a committee to negotiate with Pfizer.
The demolition of buildings in the right-of-way of the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Road has been flagged off by the Minister of Works, David Umahi. Now, the demolition exercise began at the Mani Chula Beach, Oniru waterfront on Saturday. The minister said compensation for owners of the affected structures has been adequately factored into the project and urged those affected to see the greater good of the project. The demolition process is expected to continue for some days. Following the video of a young girl being bullied at Lead British School in Abuja, paramedics and stakeholders are calling for the reform in the educational sector. Now, they emphasize the need for reforms aimed at cultivating a positive culture to foster positive attitudes and behaviors among students. News Central's Joshua Imarai tells us more.
Disturbing images of a young girl being bullied at Lead British International School in Abuja have stirred reactions and concerns among Nigerians. This incident has spurred Nigerians to call for reforms in schools.
We can still do something to save other children in order to give them maximum home training. And again, I think moral lessons supposed to be a subject in school, you know, that other people can, other children can learn, you know, because I believe is that it's what their parents imbibe in them is what they take to the school and to relate to their peers. And such incidents should not be allowed or entertained in any environment in Nigeria.
Stakeholders are urging the school to take necessary action in response to the incident.
In looking at the incident, we expect the school to also come out to tell us what their steps will be, what are the actions we're going to take. Because many times, everybody focuses on the bully. That's not where the problem is. In any bullying situation, there are three actors. You have the bully, you have the victim, and you have the bystander or the enabler. Because they were bystanders there, they were enablers there, and they all played a part. So it's important to know that these three people need help.
They are also calling on schools to instill a positive culture in their pupils to promote socially friendly behavior.
Every school must have a positive culture that is fostering the skills, the attitudes, and the behaviors you want to see in a child. That's number one. Number two, you get cases where many schools are not run by professionals. Even the setting up of the schools, we're getting to the place where we must have a charter that establishes the fact that if a school is going to be set up, it will be set up by a well-known, experienced educationist, or you bring in the certificate of one that supports you to set you up.
Behind me is the Lead British International School. This school recently found itself in the spotlight not because of its academic achievement, but rather a bizarre case of bullying. Recently, the school was sealed off after a video being shared online showcased a girl being repeatedly slapped by a classmate. This is just one of many cases of bullying. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarayi.
Thank you, Joshua, for that report. Now, the Director General of Nigeria's National Youth Service Scheme has inspired core members to embrace self-skills and become successful entrepreneurs. The DG made this known when he paid a visit to the NYSC orientation camp in Maiduguri, the Borno state capital. News Central's Umar Kirawa completes the report.
A sense of happiness and historic moment for diverse Nigerian graduates who are here to undergo 3 weeks of orientation service under the NYSC scheme.
This will be my first time being in North because I've never been in a very long journey like this before. It's very nice seeing their culture for the first time because seeing the Hausa people, meeting with them, roll with them, that really is a really good thing.
I pleaded with the parents, they allowed me that I should go. By the special grace of God, everything will be okay. So having come into this place, I come to realize that Borno is even the most peaceful state in the Nigeria.
I never knew I would come to this part of Nigeria. I've never dreamt about it in my life, but being here, it's nice, but it's lots.
Director General of the NYSC and his team of lieutenants are here to make the orientation experience memorable for the young Nigerians. The DG assured all core members that none of them will be posted to security-threatened or unsafe community.
I'm very sure you are aware there are thousands of youth out there that wants to be here with you. They have not been fortunate to be here. For that reason, you need to be congratulated.
The Director General highlighted the risks and dangers of embarking on illegal journeys by the core members.
We are encouraging the core members here who are in the orientation camp to key into this skill acquisition and entrepreneurship program so that they can learn, if possible, they can be employers of labor instead of waiting to be employed.
A total of 1,162 core members are said to be registered for the 2024 Batch A Stream 2 orientation exercise, which comprises 622 male and 550 females in Borno.
I am of the belief that if the gentlemen core member carry on as it is, core members posted to Borno State will be one of the best in Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Physical training, drills, lectures on the people of the host state, skill acquisition programs are some of the activities core members are expected to undergo to equip them for their primary assignments, community service, among others for the betterment of the society. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umori Kirawa.
For more Nigerians, or many Nigerians, autism and Down syndrome remain a mystery. Now, this lack of understanding often leads to stigmatization, isolating individuals and families facing these conditions. However, a growing movement is working to dispel these myths and create a more inclusive society. News Central's Chidimma Ona has more details in this report.
Autism spectrum disorder, ASD, affects how a person processes information, interacts with others, and experiences the world. Studies suggest that it may be as prevalent in Nigeria as in other parts of the world, as it affects thousands of children. In Nigeria, most parents with neurodivergent children are speaking out against the misconceptions and are sharing their journeys.
And kind of taking stock of your own and realizing where you are, learn from them, how far you've come. I think we beat ourselves up a lot because we see our children and we're like, they still can't do this. I want them to do that. But meanwhile, we've forgotten everything that has brought us this far. So I think one thing I've had to learn is kind of give myself, a little slack and actually give myself a little tap on the back and say, you know what, you've done all right. Not bad. Keep going.
My son is such that if he doesn't love his teacher, forget about it. There's nothing that the teacher will ever say that will make us. You will not do anything. You will just be in that class. And if you wake up in the morning and say you go to school, that's it. But if he loves the teacher, nobody needs to push him.
For Down syndrome, negative stereotypes can paint individuals as helpless and incapable. Building a more inclusive society that embraces neurodiversity requires a multi-pronged approach, which begins with a discourse for more accessible treatment and a combat of stigmatization.
I think that every school must invest in training their teachers, in how to identify and handle special needs students. Maybe it might be expensive to train every teacher, but probably one or two should have that skill.
If you're not in Lagos, if you're not in Abuja, if you're not in Port Harcourt, if you're not in Enugu, I'm sorry, there's food. Yeah. So even if you get a lot of contact from people in the north and who want to know what to do.
Society can be taught about the experience of stigma from neurodivergent point of view, and thus efforts by this group, among others, could change the narrative through effective educational awareness campaigns and community events that would alter the discriminatory terms, behaviors, and expectations.
News Central now resumes after the break. Stay with us. All right, thank you so much, Dr. Oja. We appreciate you for your time. All right, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, News Central now returns. Stay with us. The news continues in West Africa, where with parades in the capital Lomé, Togo's ruling party and the opposition closed campaigns on Saturday before legislative elections next week after a divisive constitutional reform that has fueled political tensions. Monday's ballot will take place after lawmakers this month passed the reform that critics say allows President Faure Gnassingbe to extend his family's more than 50 years in power in the small West African state. Togo's opposition boycotted the last legislative election in 2018, citing irregularities. This time, they have rallied supporters to challenge the dominance of Gnassingbe's ruling UNIR party. With caravans of vehicles, the main opposition, National Alliance for Change, or ANC, crisscrossed streets of the capital before arriving in a public square for a rally.
Le jibena mia dua koke mi ja dayaji mia opposition o ne mia mobiliser Togo jo wa d'accord na mi le gbosusu me ne mi tedo majorité su gbo l'assemblée a kan funa o tro soro yin so mia be député la te nya bena o la te tro se wan drofa
ame se me nya e gbo me gasa ga mi lo ba ti kan donc e ke gbo ba le ve amole ni bena e se ko gbo ba le tro fifia e ba motiver ame so donc mi do la ruji pe mia me di do nu se nu mia me di du be ni mi do la ruji.
Togo will on Monday hold legislative elections after a highly divisive constitutional reform that opponents say paves the way for President Faure Gnassingbe to extend his family's decades-long grip on power. Now the helm of the small West African country for nearly 20 years, Faure Gnassingbe succeeded his father Gnassingbe Eyadema, who ruled for almost 4 decades. Critics say the political dynasty's hold onto the small West African nation will be extended by the reform. People in the streets of the seaside capital Lomé were split over the election, the role of Togo's leader, and who it should be. Now, the reform adopted by lawmakers on April 19th makes the president's post a largely ceremonial one. The president will now be elected by parliament and not the people for a 4-year term.
Patami susumbe alonye agbonye na kwa ni mawe me tafum no ma babam no mo ya kwa iro dudu nua
Georgie Nambe, Totro Vilava, Kumileka, Yaojim 70, 1er janvier 70. Ojima, famille Nyasingbe le Funu, Kaka Ncham Babado Fifi, famille Nyasingbe Bapotole, Yen Miawe Puhia, et Dom le Nyajolo Sumilo, Ayakwen Yamen Wami Sukura, Wami de Potolo, les blemis sur le haut, Akbatemi sur le coco. Donc, une qui me dit actuellement, il faut que l'Américain va pas être à la barre, il faut que aso galon de souvent qu'on a joué nos bobos bon les bita qu'on a mis après tu reçois nos projets va voir mi va qu'on a nous comme va qu'on avait ces réalisations de va dans le terrain yo
fait que le Togo et gombe et du pétrole me fia ame wu le besia go Togo le fia ame wu mlo mime le pop violence nous de que le fio et gombe président que le gouverneur et le gouverneur Joignere bon et ñam souhaité be ne la te diriger et Joignere ye jola te ñu ame sa me la vole Joamea ñomingbo ñila no be parti ña no be parti so.
Burkina Faso has rejected a Human Rights Watch report that soldiers killed at least 223 villagers in 2 attacks on February 25th. Communications Minister Rimtalba Jean-Emmanuel Ouedraogo condemned the report as baseless accusations. The minister expressed his surprise that while this inquiry is underway to establish the facts and identify the authors, HRW has been able, with boundless imagination, to identify the guilty and pronounce its verdict. The junta on Thursday suspended the BBC and Voice of America radio networks from broadcasting after they aired the report accusing the army of attacks on civilians in the battle against jihadists. Now let's head to East Africa, where Sudan has requested an emergency UN Security Council meeting on what it calls UAE aggression for allegedly supporting paramilitaries battling the army. The country's official Suna news agency confirmed that Sudan's UN representatives Al-Harith Idris had submitted the request. Fighting broke out in April last year between the regular army headed by Sudan's de facto leader Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and the paramilitary rapid support forces led by his former deputy Mohammed Hamdan Daglo. Now for months, the regular army has accused the UAE of supporting the RSF, a charge the UAE denies. The Sudan war has killed tens of thousands of people and forced more than 8.5 million people to flee their homes in what the UN has called the largest displacement crisis in the world. The Irish Prime Minister Simon Harris has asked Ireland's Justice Minister to bring legislation to Cabinet to enable asylum seekers to be sent back to the UK. Helen McEntee has revealed that 80% of recent arrivals to the Republic came from the UK across the Irish border. Now, according to the Deputy Prime Minister, Michael Martin, the UK's Rwanda policy was already impacting Ireland. The UK's Rwanda policy aims to deter people from crossing the English Channel by sending some asylum seekers to the Central African country. No migrants have been sent yet from the UK. Still ahead, Biden takes aim at Trump during White House dinner. We'll bring you details after the break. Now, in other news from around the world, President Joe Biden poked fun at himself but took sharp aim at his election rival Donald Trump on Saturday at the annual White House Correspondents Association dinner. Now, amid some self-mockery and ribbing of the press, the 81-year-old president took sharp-elbowed jabs at his 77-year-old presumptive November election rival, quipping that age is the only thing they have in common. Biden struck a more serious tone in addressing what many Americans feel is a politically fraught moment, with Biden telling attendees Trump's rhetoric was a danger, particularly after the January 6, 2021 attack on the Capitol.
The 2024 election is in full swing. And yes, age is an issue. I'm a grown man running against a 6-year-old. Age is the only thing we have in common. My vice president actually endorses me. I had a great stretch since the State of the Union. Well, Donald has had a few tough days lately. You might call it stormy weather.
Pro-Palestinian protesters gathered outside the Washington Hilton Hotel chanting "Shame on you" as guests arrived for the White House Correspondents Association dinner. Now, more than 24 Palestinian journalists had issued an open letter urging their American colleagues to boycott the dinner.
Continues to fail. So we are out here in front of the White House Correspondents' Dinner to hold journalists accountable, to remind them that 133 Palestinian journalists have lost their lives telling the truth. These are targeted attacks. These are systematic attacks. These are attempts at Israel to silence the truth, and it's not going to be silenced. We are out here also highlighting the courage of Palestinian journalists that are risking their own lives, televising their own genocide.
As these propagandists enter the White House Correspondents' Dinner behind us, we knew that we couldn't let this event happen in our city without giving them a little taste of what they're really responsible for, and hopefully making them confront at least a tiny bit what they're complicit in.
Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas says the United States is the only country capable of stopping an Israeli invasion of Rafah. Now, speaking at the World Economic Forum special meeting in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, he stressed that it would be the biggest disaster in history of the Palestinian people.
ضرب ما يجري في غزة وما سيجري خلال الأيام القادمة هو ما ستقوم به إسرائيل من اجتياح مدينة رفح، لأن جميع الفلسطينيين من أهل غزة تجمعوا في مدينة رفح، وبقي ضربة صغيرة فقط لكي يخرجوا جميعا خارج إطار هذا، وهنا تحصل أكبر كارثة في تاريخ الشعب الفلسطيني. نناشد أمريكا، الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية، بالإيعاز أو بالطلب من إسرائيل أن تتوقف عن عملية رفح، لأن أمريكا هي الدولة الوحيدة القادرة على أن تمنع إسرائيل من ارتكاب هذه
Let's move to business, where maritime experts at the Ship Owners Association of Nigeria's event in Lagos disclosed that Nigeria annually loses a staggering $9.2 billion to foreign shipping lines. Hassan Bello, a former executive secretary of the Nigerian Shippers Council, emphasized the imperative for a private sector-led national fleet to address this hemorrhage. Now, he highlighted the potential economic benefits of redirecting trade earnings back into Nigeria by curbing foreign dominance. Bello's advocacy underscores the pressing need for government support to incentivize and facilitate the establishment of a robust national fleet. Such initiatives are crucial for fostering indigenous participation in international trade, ensuring economic empowerment, and bolstering sovereignty in maritime operations. Glencore CEO Gary Nagel has expressed interest in investing in Nigeria's mining sector during discussions with Mines Minister Dele Alake, highlighting potential opportunities in nickel, cobalt, and zinc. Nagel emphasized the importance of a stable business environment. Now, Minister Alake welcomed Glencore's interest, citing Nigeria's abundance of critical minerals and ongoing reforms to attract foreign investment. The discussions underscored Nigeria's efforts to develop its mining industry and strengthen partnership with international investors. In the world of sports, five-time FIFA Under-17 World Cup champions, the Golden Eaglets, continued their build-up for WAFU B Under-17 tournament with a 7-0 victory over UD Stars of Enugu. Now, the friendly game, which was played on Saturday evening at the FIFA Goal Project Moshood Abiola Stadium in Abuja, saw the Nigerian youngsters beat their opponents 5-0 before going into the break in the first half. UD Stars came into the second half determined not to concede another goal, but the Wafu B defending champions went on to dominate the half with another 2 goals before the referee signals the end of the game. The football calendar in 2025 is fully packed, especially with the introduction of the 2025 FIFA Club World Cup set to be played in the U.S. in June-July next year. CAF initially planned to stage the AFCON 2025 in the summer of 2025, but with the 2025 FIFA Club World Cup set to be played in the same period, it has made it extremely difficult for CAF to fix the competition at that time. CAF is finding it difficult as the tournament cannot be held in August 2025 because most of the leagues across the world, especially Europe, will commence. The best and most favorable time for CAF to schedule the tournament in Morocco will be in January to February of 2026. The indecisiveness within CAF is making things a bit tougher for African football. Chelsea came from 2 goals down to play a 2-2 draw against Aston Villa in a Premier League clash on Saturday. In a game of 2 halves, Noni Madueke was the hero for Chelsea as he goal had Badishil to have committed a foul when winning the ball. The result dents Aston Villa's top 4 hopes.
And Chelsea find themselves a route back into this match.
And that's all at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of our top stories over the UAE's involvement in its lingering conflict. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. Do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Darshan Usman.